Hey, what's up, guys? This is Neil. So last Sunday, that's the 4th of February, I got back from the ACI meeting in Orlando. Apparently, it was a record attendance, and it certainly felt like it. The atmosphere was also pretty buzzy, pretty optimistic. I think folks in general were thinking that the destocking of 2023 was largely behind us, and there was certainly a lot of optimism that I picked up regarding 2024. Met a lot of old friends, obviously, and some new companies and some brand new people, so that's always great. If you've not been to the meeting, if you're not a member of the ACI, I certainly encourage you to join and get involved if you're involved in the American or global cleaning industry. So that was the ACI. I want to do a few things, a few highlights from my blog. This is not intended to be an audio alternative to the blog, but there's a few things I would just want to touch on. And if you want more detail and a lot more news and trends, then please do visit the Surfactant blog. First thing, dioxane. The New York State regulation is now fully in force, which means that 1 ppm is the dioxane level that you have to adhere to if you are a manufacturer and distributor of finished consumer products. So it's in the consumer product, in the dishwash or the shampoo or the laundry detergent, you're looking at 1 ppm dioxane content in the finished product, in the cleaning product. Now, more to come. Over in Europe, there is a ruling that has been proposed by the authorities in Germany, but it would be an EU ruling if it came into effect. It's just a proposal right now, but that proposal for the EU relates to the surfactant, okay? Not to the finished product, to the surfactant, to the ether sulfate is basically the major surfactant category of interest here. And that is a 1 ppm, 1 part per million active matter content basis dioxane content in the surfactant. Again, this is a surfactant regulation. That's a pretty big deal. It's not a final ruling. It's in the proposal stage. It is proposed to come into effect October of 2025, next year. And so please do keep an eye on that. CZO, the CZO part of CEFIC, and APAG, APAG, both trade associations are working to bring some sense to this ruling, let's say. And in the meantime, technology is available to get dioxane levels down to meet this potential regulation should it come into effect again in the EU, in Europe. And this again is a proposed regulation. The other thing I want to highlight in the context of European regulations is EUDR. What does that stand for? EUDR, it stands for European Union Deforestation Regulations. EUDR, it is also a big deal. It basically says that if you're going to import or distribute products in certain categories in the EU, they must meet some standards with respect to deforestation. And so it covers a bunch of things. The most important thing from our point of view as members of the surfactant industry is it covers palm oil and certain palm oil derivatives. And it's worth digging in. I mean, the regulation is available in detail in English and a bunch of other languages, obviously, on the EU website. So it's worth digging in. But as I report in my blog, and I'm looking down at the blog right now, it requires that companies certify and conduct due diligence with respect to the deforestation potential for the products that they are manufacturing or distributing. And then, of course, the EU authorities can conduct checks with relation to those importation products and statements. And then it lists a whole bunch of products in each category. So we'll take a look here at the oil palm list. And of course, it covers palm nuts and kernels, the palm oil itself, palm kernel oil, etc., etc. In terms of the chemicals, it specifically lists glycerol, obviously, palmitic and stearic acids, and their salts and esters, various other monocarboxylic acids, stearic acid, oleic acid, and industrial fatty alcohols. And it lists those against their harmonized tariff schedule HTS numbers, which you can easily look up. There are some things missing from this list which struck me. Fatty alcohol ethoxylates are not specifically called out on the list, nor any derivatives of fatty alcohols. So alcohol ethoxylates, alcohol sulfates, alcohol ether sulfates are not on this list, but the alcohols themselves are. So again, on a regulatory front, those are some things that you guys should be keeping an eye on. What do I think of all this? I think that regulatory is not boring anymore. Why do I say anymore? Because earlier in my career, as a young executive, a young entrepreneur, I viewed regulatory as a bit of a drag, and quite frankly, it was something I would have ignored, and actually did ignore whenever I could get away with it. That is certainly not the case anymore. I think it's something that we as players in the industry have to get out in front of and be very proactive about, and support folks like CEFIC and CZO and the ACI and trade associations that seek to engage lawmakers and regulatory bodies and really get ahead of this stuff, because it's a big deal. Something else that's on my mind that I've touched on in recent blog posting is the TSCA backlog in the US, the TSCA, Toxic Substances Control Act backlog in the US. Apparently there are 368 or 370 new chemicals in the backlog. In the backlog means that they are over 90 days due, which is when the EPA is obliged to come back with some sort of feedback. And so over that 90-day time limit, they're considered to be in the backlog. And some of these chemicals, I know from personal experience, which I won't get into in any more specific detail, but from personal experience, have been in there for a few years already. And so this is not, as far as I can see, not a party political thing. It's not a partisan thing. It's an issue of just getting these things moving through the EPA, because right now there's an enormous logjam in terms of the ability for chemical companies to innovate. It's well recognized, not just in this country, but around the world, that there's some serious dysfunction there. The ACC, the American Chemistry Council, is doing what they can to try and improve things. I don't know how responsive the EPA is to shaming or anything like that, but this is a huge deal. So what else? I don't want to keep you guys too long, but I'm seriously considering launching a podcast. I'm talking with some partners in terms of some high production value kind of interviews with leaders in the industry. My sense is that there's a lot of podcasts out there. It's more than my sense, it's a fact. A lot of podcasts out there, a lot of demands on your time. I think, again, I don't want to make it just an audio or a video version of the blog. What I'm thinking about is anchoring it, if you like, around the chemical industry and surfactants in particular, but really focusing in on things like human development, human potential, leadership, getting on some really top-notch, some really interesting, introspective hosts. Sorry, I'm the host. Introspective guests, people who have something to tell about their story, about their origins in the industry, their approach to management and leadership, to business growth. It's going to be a lot about business growth. Growing companies, growing product lines, growing markets, things like that. And I'm hoping to tease out some interesting truths and kind of work with the guest to get to a point that's interesting. This is going to be long form. Let's see how long I can keep going and make it interesting. And if you've got any suggestions, things that you'd like to see covered, subject matter, topics, or I think more interestingly, guests, people you'd like to see on camera, kind of spending some time. And I'm talking 90 minutes plus, really getting into some detail about what makes them tick, how they view economics, society, the role of industry in society, things like that. Really getting deep. I want to cover a lot of detail, and I want to also cover things at a sort of a high level, if you can imagine that kind of, getting down and dirty into things like chemistry and computing. We're going to spend a lot of time in artificial intelligence, what's happening in machine learning and self-driving labs, all that stuff. So anyway, that's the idea. I haven't done anything yet in terms of putting together any episodes, but definitely interested in your feedback and ideas. And that's it. Finally, I guess I've got to end with a commercial. So if you want to switch off now, go ahead. The commercial is that May the 9th and 10th in Jersey City is, you've guessed it, the World Surfactant Conference. This is the 14th episode of this incredible conference that I started a long time ago, way back. And actually we did the first one in Secaucus, not in Jersey City. Everyone since then has been Jersey City. And of course we've done them around the world, in Europe and in Asia and in India. But this is the 14th one, the 14th World Conference in Jersey City, May the 9th and 10th. Super excited. Loads of great speakers, loads and loads of speakers, cramming them all in. Biosurfactants, artificial intelligence, industry leaders, the real pillars of the industry. We're going to get into, again, a lot of detail and talk at a very high level. And we have a super special surprise, brand new feature at the end of the conference. So I look forward to seeing a lot of old friends there and some new friends. So end of commercial, end of podcast. Thanks for watching.